Since this is an introductory class, I want to talk a little bit about the general issue of how to learn. Metacognition is an awareness of understanding. And poor metacognition is often the reason that students do badly in college, especially in the first or second year of college. The basic problem is that your self understanding gets calibrated according to high school learning and high school tasks and needs to be recalibrated for college. College is harder. You're required to read difficult material like the material in this class and material that you're not used to reading, and issues and ways that you're not used to thinking. And so you need to learn different kinds of strategies uh, for addressing that material. And you need to be able to pay attention to how you're learning and what you're learning and how you're understanding in order to be able to assess how you're developing those skills at learning this particular material. So you might think you're understanding the material, but you're not able to apply it when it comes to the test or an essay. Or you might think that you're just not cut out for one field or another, like philosophy, that you or a math person or an art person or whatever. And so you're just never going to get that kind of material. And that's just not true. You should be able to learn anything that you want to learn, but you need to learn how to learn that material. And that requires metacognitive skills and skills particular to the discipline that you're investigating. So let's start with the metacognitive test about what's important to learning. And so for these five um, uh, possible answers to this question about what's important in learning, think about for yourself, what do you think is most important to learning? Is it the intention and desire to learn, paying close attention to the material, what you think about while you're studying, time spent studying, or studying using your learning style? So maybe pause for a minute and think for yourself what the right answer is to what is most important to learning. The best answer is number three, what you think about while you're studying. Dedicating time is important, but it's not enough. And if your study strategies are ineffective, then you're not going to learn. So, one reason for the difficulty in shifting from high school learning to college learning is thinking that you can just use the same study strategies and just give yourself more time. But you really need to be able to learn more deeply. So, you need to be paying attention to what you're learning and how you're learning in order to be able to develop better strategies. So, no simple memorization that's going to give you superficial, meaningless information and not sufficient to really deeply understand the material that you're trying to learn. And no multitasking. You'll need to focus. So, number two, that you pay attention. What you pay attention to is important in deep learning, but it's not the most important thing. You need to be able to have uh, uh, strategies for deep learning. And so here are four principles for deep learning adapted from Stephen Chu. And the first is to elaborate. Think of the relations among concepts. So as you're learning material, you're not just memorizing, you're paying attention to what the concepts are, and you're thinking about how they're related. The second principle is to distinguish concepts. So in addition to thinking about how concepts are related, are connected, also be able to think about the differences among concepts. How are they distinct? So you can understand, both the similarities and the differences. And then third, make it personal. Relate the concepts to your own experience so that they're meaningful to you and not just abstract concepts. And then fourth, apply the concepts, practice with the concepts. So think about the definition of the concepts, think about case studies, problem solving, how you would use the concept to do things in your life. The journals are the sort of exercises that we'll do to particularly get you to practice the concepts that we're learning. So one of the elements that I'll be looking for in the journals is, are you utilizing the concepts from class in understanding your experience as you are asking yourself the journal question? So these are general strategies for any kinds of concepts that you want to learn, not just for the concepts in this class, but for your science classes, your math classes, your psychology classes, whatever it is that you want to learn, these principles ought to help you in learning those concepts. In addition, there are specific strategies for better reading. And again, there are four strategies. So it's maybe an easy number to learn. If the first is to survey the text, to get an overview of the text, look for the main ideas in the text. Some texts are better for getting a survey, and others aren't that helpful. Descartes, for example, is not that helpful. There are no subheadings. There's just meditations one, two, and three. They're not even named, but you can look in most texts. Often the title will give you a good clue about what's in the text, and look at the headings to give you a sense of what's going to happen in this text. And that'll give you some expectations of what to get out of the text as you're going through. So you don't just start at the beginning with a blank slate, that you start at the beginning having some sense of where this text is going to go. Then, second, summarize after every paragraph, restate the ideas in your own words. Um, this seemed to me to be like it would be too time consuming to ask students to do this. But according to Dr. McGuire, it actually is a more efficient reading strategy than just reading straight through. And that's because of the tendency to wander off and reread and not really be paying attention to what it is that you're reading. Whereas if you're stopping after every paragraph and stating what it is that you've just understood, then you're not wandering off, or if you wander off, you're wandering off right away after each paragraph. And it also then helps with the next paragraph to understand what it was that you just read and what you read before that. That each paragraph then is something that you are understanding what's going on, and you are very efficient then in your reading because you're not just letting the words wash over you, that you're actually getting out of the text what it is that you need to get out. Then, third, review, summarize the whole reading assignment. So, go back over your little paragraphs and kind of have a sense, okay, what do all of these different points come to in whole? We'll have an assignment like that for several of your SACS readings that that I'll ask you to write out what the general upshot of the reading was. But for most of the readings, you're going to be on your own to figure out what's in it. And so, so even if you don't do the second one, even if you don't summarize after every paragraph, it's probably a good idea to do a summary of the whole reading so that you have a sense of what's going on before you come to class. And then reflect, think about other questions and alternate ways to think about the material, uh, other than the author argued for. So, think about objections to the course material, think about other ways of thinking about consciousness than the way in which the author has suggested we think about consciousness. This will give you a better critical view of the material, and give you a basis for further thinking about the material.